Crossfire. Written by James Patterson. Read by Andre Brower and J.O. Sanders.
Prologue. Finders Keepers. It had been months since Kyle Craig had killed a man. Once upon a time, he'd been the type who needed everything yesterday, if not sooner, but no more. If years of hellish solitude in ADX Florence in Colorado had taught him nothing else, it was how to wait for what he wanted. He sat patiently in the foyer of his quarry's Miami apartment, weapon cradled on his lap, watching the lights of the harbor and biding his time. The man of the hour, Max Siegel, was whistling as he came in. He waited for Mr. Siegel to close the door behind him and take a few more steps into the still dark apartment. Then Kyle leveled his red laser sight and squeezed the trigger. "Oh, Mr. Siegel," he said. "Good to meet you." A stream of electrically charged saline solution hit Siegel squarely in the back, carrying 50,000 volts with it. He grunted between clenched teeth. His shoulders seized up just before his body went completely rigid, and he fell like a tree to the floor. Kyle didn't hesitate for a second. He quickly slipped a nylon cord across Siegel's throat, wound it around 3 times, and started to drag him in a small circle to sop up the saline solution on the floor, then yanked him straight through the apartment toward the master bath in the back. In the bathroom, Kyle lifted him into the oversized tub and tied off the ends of the cord to one of the chrome fixtures. "You probably don't even know about these, do you?" he said, holding up the strange gun he'd carried in. "I know you've been underground a while, but trust me, they're going to be huge." The thing looked like a super soaker, which it kind of was. Regular tasers could go for 30 seconds at best. This baby could run and run, thanks to a 2-gallon wearable water pack strapped to his back. "What do you want?" Siegel finally choked out in response to the madness. Kyle withdrew a small Canon digital camera from his pocket and started taking pictures. Full face, left profile, right profile. "I know who you are, Agent Siegel. Let's start there, okay?" A look of confusion crossed the man's face, then fear. "Oh, God, this is some kind of horrible mistake. My name is Ivan Schimmel." "No," Kyle said, snapping away. Brow, nose, chin. "You're Max Siegel, and you're FBI. You've been deep undercover for the last 26 months. Worked your way up with the Buenos cartel until they trusted you enough to start making shipments. Now, while everyone's watching Colombia, you're running heroin from Phuket and Bangkok to Miami." "I don't know who you're talking about," he cried. "Please, check my wallet." "I suppose you might be forgiven for not recognizing me," Kyle went on. "Does the name Kyle Craig mean anything to you? Or maybe the Mastermind? That's what they call me up at the Puzzle Palace in D.C. As a matter of fact, I used to work there, long time ago." A flash of recognition came and went in Siegel's eyes. Not that Kyle needed any kind of confirmation. His reconnaissance was still flawless. Kyle took another 6 pictures and repocketed the camera. "You're actually a victim of your own good work, if that's any consolation. Nobody knows who you are down here, not even the local FBI. That's why I chose you. I selected you out of all the agents working in the United States. You, Max. Can you guess why?" His voice had changed as he spoke. It was more nasal now, with the same shades of Brooklyn accent that laced the real Max Siegel's speech. "This will never work! You're insane!" Siegel screamed at him. "You're fucking mad!" "By some standards, I think that might be true," Kyle said. "But I'm also the most brilliant son of a bitch you'll ever have the pleasure to know." Then he pulled the trigger one more time and just let the thing run. Siegel writhed mutely on the bottom of the tub. Eventually, he began to gag on his own tongue. Kyle watched, carefully noting every detail all the way to the end, studying his subject until there was nothing left to learn.
"Let's hope this works," he said. "Wouldn't want you to have died for nothing, Mr. Siegel."
22 days later, a man bearing a striking resemblance to Max Siegel checked out of the Hotel Melia Habana in the ritzy Miramar section of Havana, Cuba. He signed the bill with a perfectly replicated signature and kept the charges on Max Siegel's brand-new American Express card. The surgeries, however, had been paid for in cash. From the hotel, he caught a cab across town to Dr. Cruz's office, discreetly tucked into one of the city's endless neoclassic arcades. Inside was a full-service, completely staffed modern clinic that would have made a high-priced plastic surgeon in Miami or Palm Beach proud.
"I have to tell you, Senor Siegel, that I'm quite pleased with this."
The doctor spoke softly as he removed the last of the bandages.
"It is some of the best work I've ever done, if I may say so."
Dr. Cruz had performed 7 separate procedures, something that might have taken months or even a year elsewhere. There was blepharoplasty for the eyelids, a template rhinoplasty for the nose, with a complete elevation of the skin and soft tissue in the nasal pyramid. New med-pore implants for more prominent cheekbones and chin, a sliding genioplasty of the jawbone, a little silicone augmentation for the brow, and as a finishing touch, a nice little cleft in the chin, just like Max Siegel's. At the patient's request, no electronic imaging had been taken before or after the procedures. For the right rate, Dr. Cruz had been more than willing to work from a series of digital blow-ups in hard copy. No questions asked, no interest in any biophysical detail. Now, when he held up the large hand mirror for Kyle to see his reflection, the effect was stunning. The implants, especially, were like a miracle of change. Max, not Kyle, smiled back from the mirror. He felt a slight sting at the corners of his mouth, which didn't move quite the same way as before. In fact, he didn't recognize himself at all. It was a total mindfuck, in the best possible way. There had been other disguises in the past, including some very expensive prosthetics that had gotten him out of prison, but they were nothing compared to this. He left the clinic in an excellent mood and took another cab straight to Jose Marti International Airport. From there, he caught a flight back to Miami with a connection to Washington, D.C. that same afternoon for the main event. Already his thoughts had begun to coalesce around one idea: meeting up with his old friend and sometimes partner, Alex Cross. Had Alex forgotten the promises Kyle had made to him over the years? That didn't seem possible. But had Cross grown just a little complacent in the meantime? Maybe so. In any case, the great Alex Cross was going to die, and die badly. There would be pain, but even more than that, regret. It would be a finale worth waiting for, no question. Book 1. Shooter Ready. Another manhole cover had exploded in Georgetown, blowing nearly 40 feet in the air. It was a strange little epidemic, as the city's aging infrastructure reached some kind of critical mass. Over time, underground wires had frayed and smoldered, filling the space beneath the streets with flammable gas. Ultimately, and more frequently these days, the exposed wires created an electrical arc, lighting a fireball in the sewer and sending another 300-pound iron disc flying up into the air. This was the weird, scary stuff Denny and Mitch lived for. Every afternoon they would gather up their papers to sell and hoof it over to the library to check the District Department of Transportation, DDOT, website for wherever rush hour traffic was at its worst. Log jams were their meat. Even on an ordinary day, the Key Bridge lived up to its nickname, the car-strangled spanner. But today, The M Street approach was somewhere between a parking lot and a circus. Denny worked his way up the middle of the traffic, and Mitch took the outside.
True press, only $1. Help the homeless. Jesus loves you, help the homeless.
They were an odd pair to look at them. Denny, a 6-feet-something white guy with bad teeth and stubble that never quite hid his sunken chin, and then Mitch, a brother with a boyish dark black face, a husky body that topped out at 5'6", and stubby little baby dreads on his head to match.
Yo, Denny!
Mitch chinned at a couple of street cops working their way over from 34th.
I don't think these two are feeling us too much.
Denny shouted over before the cops could talk first.
Panhandling ain't illegal, officers. Not outside federal parklands, and last I checked, M Street ain't no park.
One of them gestured around at the snarl of traffic, Pepco trucks, and fire department vehicles.
You're kidding me, right? Let's go. Clear out. Come on, man. You're going to deny a couple of homeless vets the right to make an honest living? You ever been in Iraq, man?
Mitch added. People were starting to stare.
You heard the officer, the second cop told him. Move along. Now. Hey, man, just 'cause you got an asshole doesn't mean you gotta be one,
Denny said to a few laughs. He could feel the captive audience coming over to his side. Suddenly there was some pushing. Mitch didn't much like to be touched, and the cop who tried went down on his ass between the cars. The other one got a hand on Denny's shoulder, and like a lightning bolt, Denny knocked it away. Time to go. He slid across the hood of a yellow cab and started toward Prospect with Mitch right behind.
Stop right there,
one of the cops shouted after them. Mitch kept running, but Denny turned around. There were several cars between Denny and the officers now.
What are you going to do? Shoot a homeless vet in the middle of traffic?
Denny smiled, gave the officer a crisp salute with his middle finger, and ran to catch up with Mitch. A second later, they were sprinting up 33rd Street and were soon out of sight. They were still laughing when they got back to Denny's ancient Suburban, parked in Lot 9 by Lowinger Library on the Georgetown campus.
That was awesome!
Mitch's doughy face was shiny with sweat, but he wasn't even out of breath. He was the type whose muscles looked a lot like fat.
What are you going to do? He parroted. Shoot a homeless vet in the middle of traffic? True press, $1, Denny said. Lunch at Taco Bell, $3. The look on Popo's face when he knows you got him? Priceless. Wish I had a picture.
He plucked a bright orange envelope from under his wiper blade and got in on the driver's side. The car still smelled of chain-smoked cigarettes and burritos from the night before. Pillows and blankets were bunched up in a ball on one half of the back seat, next to a lawn and leaf bag full of returnable cans. Behind that, under a stack of collapsed cardboard boxes, a few old carpet remnants, and a false plywood bottom, were 2 Walther PPS 9mm pistols, a semi-automatic M21, and a military-grade M110 sniper rifle. Also, a long-range thermal-optical sight, a spotting scope, a cleaning kit for the rifles, and several boxes of ammunition, all wrapped up in a large plastic tarp and bundled with several bungee cords. Denny counted out the day's take. 45. Not bad for a short shift. He gave Mitch 10 singles and a handful of quarters.
So what do you think, Denny? Am I ready or what? I think I'm ready.
Denny sat back and lit one of the half-smoked butts in the ashtray.
Yeah, Mitch, I think maybe you are ready. The question is, are they ready for us?
Mitch's knees started to jackhammer up and down.
When do we start? Tonight? What about tonight? What about it, huh, Denny?
Denny shrugged and leaned back.
Just enjoy the peace and quiet where you can, 'cause you're going to be as famous as shit soon enough.
He blew a smoke ring, then another, which passed right through the first.
You ready to be famous?
Mitch was looking out the window at a couple of cute, short-skirted co-eds crossing the parking lot. His knees were still bouncing.
I'm ready to start this thing, that's what. Good boy. And what's the mission, Mitchie? Clean up this mess in Washington just like the